Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Eric. This is episode number 37 of the Leading Edge podcast. Thank you, as always, for being a part of this. I so appreciate it. This one's going to be awesome. We're going to talk about negotiating with your past. So let me ask you this. Do you ever have one of those weeks, one of those really awesome, fantastic weeks? I'm having one of those weeks. It's just been incredible. I feel so energized by what's been happening in my life this week and the things that I've been doing, and specifically why I'm energized and fired up and super happy and feeling really fulfilled is I've had the chance to host two business planning workshops this week. And first, just being in front of a group of people and helping them out and bringing them clarity and motivation and helping them do things that maybe they couldn't do otherwise without my help is like my jam. I love that. It's really, really fulfilling. And then business planning specifically is a blast for me for a couple reasons. First of all, it's just really cool to give people a framework on how to do their plan. I think that there's a misconception out there that business people and real estate agents specifically are averse to planning and getting things really nailed down and building their budget and their goals and all those things. And I don't think that that's true. I think people really do want to do those things. They just don't know how. They don't even know where to start. So when you can give them the framework on how to do it in a really clear process, and it's step by step, and you make it feel easy for them, that is really cool. So that's very, very fulfilling. So I watched that happen this week, which filled up my energy tank. And the other thing that's energizing me is I just love this time of year. So I'm recording this podcast in the middle of November, and it's business planning season. And it's the time where you start to think about next year and the goals that you're setting and what you want to achieve and what you want to accomplish. And it's just a chance to kind of reset and have a blank slate, a blank sheet of paper. And it's a time of year where anything's possible, right? So as you think about going into next year, the most important thing is to really believe that anything at all is possible. So for all those reasons, I'm having an extra good week. Most of my weeks are really, really good, but this week is like extra good. And those are the reasons why. So, which leads to the main content, the main lesson in this podcast. And it relates to a guy named Dan Sullivan. So Dan Sullivan is someone that I encourage you to check out. He's someone who I follow. He has a company called Strategic Coach, and he coaches entrepreneurs, all kinds of entrepreneurs. And he's been doing it a long, long time. He is super smart, really, really smart. And I was watching one of his videos online, so you can find all kinds of YouTube videos of his. Again, his name is Dan Sullivan with Strategic Coach. So I was watching one of his videos. It was about a month ago, and it was during the time when I was putting the finishing touches on this business planning workshop and building out the packet for it and building out the PowerPoint. And I was watching this video, not necessarily because I was looking for content for the business planning, but Dan Sullivan said something in this video that was so relevant to goal setting and business planning that I decided to drop it into the beginning of my business planning workshops and presentation, because it became such a great mindset lesson and a really great way to frame up the whole conversation about goal setting and getting your plan in order. And Dan, what happened when I was watching this, sometimes I would guess the same thing happens for you, but sometimes when I watch a speaker, I'll get a big aha or takeaway based on the specific lesson that they're teaching, the words that are up on the screen, the specific point that they're making. Oftentimes, of course, that will be a big aha, but also sometimes I get big ahas and takeaways from offhanded remarks that the speaker says sometimes. And so that causes me to always be really tuned in, especially to speakers I'm enjoying and those I really respect that I get a lot from. That causes me to always be tuned in to everything they say, because sometimes they make those offhanded remarks that just hit you really hard, right? They hit you in the brain, or it hit you in the heart, hit you in the soul. And so this was one of those offhanded remarks that Dan Sullivan said. And so here's what he said as it relates to goal setting and planning and thinking about your future. What he said was, most people are in a negotiation with their past about their future. And I'll say that one more time because I think it's so profound. He said, most people are in a negotiation with their past about their future. And I just thought, when he said that, I thought, oh my goodness, that is amazing. That is so powerful, so significant, so true. It's so true when I think about the people that I coach and work with and mentor. It's so true for me personally, absolutely. I can think of so many times where I'm sitting there negotiating with my past about my future. So the more I thought about this, I started to think about my kids, and I started to think about specifically Greta, who's 9 years old. And if you can think about when you were 9 years old, I would imagine that there was a whole lot of negotiation that you were having with your parents, right? It's pretty much a constant negotiation that we have with Greta in a very positive way. I don't, I think it's all healthy. These are healthy dynamics, healthy conversations. I think it's natural for these kind of negotiations to occur with someone who's 9, but you can probably guess the things that we negotiate about. So we negotiate about bedtime, for instance. We have been negotiating about Halloween candy. So Halloween was a couple weeks ago. We still got some Halloween candy laying around. So for the past couple weeks, we've been negotiating pretty much every night on how much Halloween candy Greta is going to have for dessert. Another negotiation that comes up sometimes with little kids, of course, is sleepovers. So, imagine Greta saying to me, well, Daddy, can I have a sleepover with my friend so-and-so? And what I'm going to say is, well, sweetie, let me talk to mommy and we're going to get back to you. So, there's this whole dynamic around negotiation between kids and their parents. And it made me think about Dan Sullivan's quote. And I think often what happens is that we treat ourselves as the kid and treat our past as the parent when it comes to negotiating with our past about our future, right? So we're acting like we're the kid and our past is the parent, where we're going to ask our past basically for permission as to what we want to go do into the future. So to make this point, I'll give kind of a silly example, but just to make the point. So imagine 20 years from now that Greta is now 29, 20 years from now, and she's living wherever, and she calls me up and says, hey, Daddy, so if it's all right with you tonight, I'd like to have 2 candy bars instead of 1, and I'd like to stay up a little bit later tonight, maybe stay up till 10 instead of going to bed at 9. And, you can imagine my reaction if she was 29 calling me. I would say, sweetie, what are you doing calling me? That's, this is silly. You're an adult, right? Greta, you're an adult. You don't need to call me and ask for permission with those things. And the thing is, when it comes to negotiating with our past about our future, is that we're adults, all right? We are adults. So when you're an adult, you are empowered to make decisions. So it's not permission anymore. It's telling someone what you're going to do. So, maybe Greta would call me when she's 29 and say, hey, Daddy, just so you know, I'm going to have 2 candy bars tonight and I'm going to stay up late. And I would say, okay, great. Good for you. She could tell me what she's going to do. She certainly wouldn't ask for permission. And yet we don't act like adults when it comes to thinking about how our past plays into our future. We go to our past to ask for permission. There's no need to go to our past to ask for permission. So what we do need to do is we need to flip it around, all right? So what Dan Sullivan said is that we need to stop trying to justify our future to our past. We need to ask our past to justify itself to our future. Again, we need to ask our past or even better, tell our past to justify itself to our future. So another way to say that, really what that means is we get to decide what comes along. We are empowered to make a decision and choose as to what's going to come along into the future. So not everything in our past should be coming along to our future. And also, if we're trying to drag everything from our past into our future, that becomes super burdensome, right? That's a lot of luggage, that's a lot of weight, that's a lot of extra things that we're trying to carry into our future. Aren't we better off traveling kind of light into our future and not trying to drag these things along? Aren't we more likely to hit a higher level, a higher elevation, if we're not bogged down and dragged down by all these things? I kind of think about like a hot air balloon has ballast, and if it wants to go higher up into the sky, it's going to offload some ballast, right? It's going to offload some weight onto the ground. So it can't hit a high altitude if it's got a bunch of extra weight. So there we are, we're trying to go into the future and hit these higher levels, to hit these big goals, hit these big dreams. And meanwhile, we're trying to drag all this stuff along. Well, that's just not going to work. So what we can do instead is that we can look at our past and say, all right, past, here's the thing. Instead of asking for permission, saying, all right, past, here's the thing. This is what's going to happen. This is what I'm going to do. Instead of it being like Greta asking for permission for a sleepover, you're not going to your past saying, well, I kind of had these ideas and kind of had these goals and these dreams and kind of these things I wanted to do. And I just wanted to see if it would be okay with you. And we don't want our past in a position to say, well, let me go think about that. I'll get back to you. We're not doing that. We're going to our past and say, here's the deal. Here's the thing. These are the things that I am going to do this year. These are the things that I'm going to do into the future. And I need to know from you, past, which parts of you are going to help me achieve that, which parts of you are going to come along. So you say to your past, you know what? All those disempowering stories, all those memories of times where I didn't feel like I was enough, or I didn't feel worthy, or didn't feel like I had the skills or the confidence or the courage to do those things. Those moments where I just overall felt like I wasn't empowered, like it wasn't enough to go make it happen. Sorry, those things don't get invited along, right? Those things get to hang out in the past, and I appreciate those stories. I learn from them. Thank you, but you're not coming along. What is coming along are all those moments, all those memories where I did go just crush that goal, where I did achieve that amazing thing, where I felt incredible, where I felt like I could do anything. Like all those memories, all those thoughts, all those stories, all those beliefs, those get to come along. And when you pick and choose what comes along, it puts you in first of all, a super strong position of power. You are deciding, you're in control, right? You're not letting your past own you. You're totally in control of what's coming along into the future. And you get to travel light. All right, you're not trying to drag all those things along. So what happens is it becomes way, way easier to achieve that big goal because you're not dragging all the old stuff along. All right. So that's the lesson that I learned from Dan. And that is the reality. And that is a really empowering way to frame up your past as it relates to your future, right? So we're going to stop negotiating with our past about our future. We're going to tell our past to justify itself to our future. So you could even, as an exercise on a sheet of paper, make 2 columns, draw a line right down the middle, and on the left side put things that aren't coming along, things that are going to be left behind, and make a list. At least you get clarity on what those are. You download them, you become aware. You can even thank them for the lessons that you learn. And then over on the right side, make a column of the things that are coming along, the thoughts, beliefs, the memories, the stories that will help you achieve what it is that you want to achieve into the year 2020. So guys, that is the lesson. Again, you may want to check out Dan Sullivan and his content. It's pretty amazing stuff. So next month, what we're doing in the Leading Edge Inner Circle is that we're doing business planning. So if you want help with this, if you want to see the method on how to dial in your plan, if you want the framework on how to do this instead of starting with a blank sheet of paper, well, then you need to check out the Inner Circle. So go on over to jointheleadingedge.com and you can get signed up. You can join, and I'll walk you through the framework on how to get your plan ready for next year. Plus, you get all kinds of other goodies and great stuff. And in the meantime, boy, as always, I so appreciate you engaging with this podcast. It means the world to me. We're blowing up in terms of downloads. It's super exciting. And I will see you coming up in the next podcast. And in the meantime, enjoy life on the leading edge. We'll talk to you soon.